So I want to introduce today's speaker. Today we have Susan Frett, who joined the Maui Invasive Species Committee nearly a year ago as the Community Koki Program Coordinator. She joined MISC after running various community programs, including one in Wisconsin, where she built and trained a team of citizen scientists to help in monitoring wildlife populations using game cameras. So thank you very much, Susan, and take it away.
Right. Thanks, Beth, for the great introduction. And thanks to everybody for attending this webinar about the Community Coqui Control Program. So this program empowers participants to effectively control coqui frogs by loaning out equipment and providing free training in citric acid to our participants. Anyone in Maui County with coqui frogs present on their property can participate in this program. And we also facilitate groups of neighbors working together to control coqui, because we have found that neighbors working together is a more effective method to control the coqui than individuals working alone. And we give out these small yard signs to participants to help spread the word about the program and encourage neighbors to get involved. Okay. Sorry, small technical difficulty. Okay, the community program offers different levels of support based on the needs of the participants and the amount of coqui frogs present on their property. And support ranges from delivering powdered citric acid for a single resident to mix up themselves according to our guidance, to setting up a 1,000-gallon reservoir of 14% citric acid solution in a neighborhood and refilling it during a community coqui spray week where 10 or more properties are treated. We've also developed handouts and web pages for people to learn more about how to effectively control coqui frogs. Here are some of the examples of our current resources, and more resources are in development. Versions of these handouts are available from our webpage, which is linked here. And examples include how to use our equipment, how to make your yard unfriendly to coqui frogs, how to safely mix up and apply the citric acid solution, and how to find where coqui frogs might be hiding on your property. So on the low end of the program, for people maybe with a small property or just 1 or 2 coqui, we give out small 1.28 pound bags of the powdered citric acid. And that's enough to make 1 gallon of 16% citric acid solution. It's really helpful for people if they only have like 1 or 2 coqui on their property to try to control those themselves. So community members following up on these individual frogs, it really saves time for the MISC staff to focus on the more challenging work locations, primarily around the Haiku area in Maui. We give out free powdered citric acid and also have these 9-gallon sprayers available to loan out. Sprayers can also be purchased locally at hardware and garden centers. Many community members too have rigged up their own sprayers by putting spray tanks on the back of a lawnmower or golf cart or something like that. We do always want to know where people are finding coqui frogs because that data really informs our work. So anyone who hears coqui frogs on Maui should submit a report through this link here, or you can always call us at 573-6472. So people who needed to get the powdered citric acid from us used to stop by our base yard to pick up supplies during our regular office hours. And we had to stop this practice due to COVID-19. Most of our office staff began working remotely. So since then, we've been offering no contact delivery, kind of along the lines of the no contact food delivery that most people are familiar with. We've delivered over 2,200 pounds of the powdered citric acid since that original stay home order back in March of last year. So requesters, they have to read a few forms, including an HDOA citric acid form, and agree to follow our Community Coqui Control Code of Conduct, which basically just say that they're going to use the supplies that we've provided in the way that we've directed to control coqui frogs. So typically we'll leave anywhere from a few of those small 1.28 pound bags up to like 1 or 2 50-pound bags somewhere on the requester's property, where it's going to be safe from the elements and also safe from anyone who shouldn't get into it, like pets or kids, or other animals. Like, we don't want anybody to get into it that shouldn't be getting into it. So this has worked great, and lots of people have used this service. So for larger properties, or those groups of neighbors that work together, we've got more resources available. And some of those are shown here, including our 55 or 100-gallon sprayer that would fit in the back of a pickup truck. We check these sprayers out to people, and they can keep them for a single night, or keep it for a week or longer, just depending on what their needs are and their schedule. So for areas where multiple neighbors are working together, we've also set up these reservoirs shown here that go in the neighborhood, and they contain the 14% citric acid solution. So according to our neighborhood participants, like, having this premixed citric available has been a real game changer for their ability to control the Koki frogs, because it really cuts down on their prep time and gives them more time to do the treatments. Before we had this setup available, people would have to get like several 50-pound bags from us and mix up their citric themselves with a garden hose, which takes a really long time. So in this setup, and the equipment is the same kind of equipment that our Koki crew also uses to control the Koki. So this map is showing the different areas that we have these community Koki control neighborhoods. They're all around the Haiku area, and include Haiku Hill, which was our first program that got started, followed shortly by the Haiku Mauka neighborhood, and then the Haiku Makai and Maliko Bay community, the Lower Kokomo, and the Akoa Alaolu Maka'io neighborhood just recently started in November of 2020. So each of these neighborhoods would hold a community spray week on an approximate 6-week recurring schedule. And according to one participant in Haiku Hill, spraying each month has reduced the number of Koki on each property from hundreds to only a handful. And each of these neighborhoods requires a different level of support from MISC. Haiku Hill, for example, is almost completely autonomous. They just need the equipment and to get the premixed citric, and then they do everything on their own. And then on the other end of the spectrum, Haiku Makai, they don't have someone with a truck that can check out the sprayer. So we bring out the sprayer a few times every time that they're scheduled to have a spray week, and help the residents who have signed up to participate that week. And each time we bring out the sprayer, we ask the people to make sure that they know where the Koki are on their property, and then to help out with the spray as much as they're physically able. And applying the citric is really similar to watering your plants, except that the spray is really directed at the foliage, and we want to cover as much of the vegetation as we can. The citric acid is only effective at controlling the Koki if it gets on their skin. So it's important to know where on the property the Koki are located, down to the smallest section of vegetation that we can know. And during the fourth quarter of 2020, we started offering this program on a smaller scale to smaller groups of neighbors working together that we like to call micro neighborhoods. These are just groups of 2 to 6 neighbors that work together. And this map is showing some of the locations that we visited last quarter, mainly along Kokomo and Baldwin Avenue around Haiku. So it's very similar to the regular spray weeks, except it's just like a single night of the neighbors working together with the MISC staff person bringing out the truck and the sprayer to the properties. And we train the people like on the spot how to do it. And then they put those skills immediately to work controlling the Koki in their yards with that MISC staff person providing support. So a lot of people really enjoy, like, once they've been trained how to do this, they take the hose and they can be just as effective as any MISC staff person could be. So here's a sampling of some of our participants in the program doing the Koki control work, or posing together after we've had a night of spray activities. And some of these participants have been doing this work for more than a year. And they really know what they're doing and are very effective with their spray techniques. They know how to operate the equipment, and they also know like how to do the required cleanup, which is really important since so many people use this equipment. We need to keep it in good working order for everybody. So some statistics from the fourth quarter of 2020 are shown here. We had 96 unique properties where the community performed the control measures with no MISC staff present. And additionally, like the community participants working alongside MISC applied 4,095 gallons of the citric acid solution. And working on their own, they applied another 9,160 gallons of that citric acid solution. So this really indicates that the community is willing and able to take part in these Koki control measures, as long as they're provided the resources to do so. And as more community members are empowered to control Koki, our Koki crew is freed up to concentrate on the more difficult to access areas. And all of us working together is what's really needed to work towards eradicating Koki on Maui. So something our Koki crew frequently does is install PVC pipelines to better facilitate getting the citric acid solution into the gulches without having to drag hundreds of feet of fire hose through that challenging terrain. And the Haiku Hill community installed this pipeline shown here around their neighborhood using materials supplied by MISC. The Lower Kokomo neighborhood also has a pipeline running through a gulch in their neighborhood. And these pipelines really help to get the citric acid to where the Koki are and are able to help the neighbors work together and hold a buffer to keep the Koki back from their backyards. So we use a variety of outreach tools to get the word out about the program. We use these larger signs at the entrances to the neighborhoods that hold the community spray weeks. And these signs, they serve as a reminder for the neighborhood participants to check their email for a link to the sign up schedule, and are also a prompt for other people who may see the signs, and they'll call and find out about the Koki spray weeks. We get a lot of calls from people who are just driving down the road and see one of these signs, and they'll call us to find out more about what's going on. And other outreach tools that we frequently use are those e-newsletters, always going out like a week before the spray week, including a link to the schedule. And then we send out a spray week wrap up talking about what happened during the spray week, giving shout outs to people who participated. And then we frequently also post through our MISC social media posts. A big challenge through Maui is the proper disposal of green waste from people's backyards. Green waste can be a major vector of invasive species, and it's also a physical hazard to our crews when they encounter any green waste or other improperly disposed of materials. So to help with this, we began offering 30 cubic yard green waste bins in some of the neighborhoods that we work in. And this has become a really popular option, with the neighborhoods continuing to ask when they can get another bin. So this is a particularly cost-effective method of controlling the Koki frogs and other invasive species, since green waste piles are havens for Koki frogs to hang out in, and reducing Koki habitat can reduce Koki frog levels by up to 30%. It also makes it easier, once the vegetation has been thinned out, for that 14% citric acid solution to reach the remaining Koki. We're thankful to Maui Disposal for partnering with us and giving us a reduced rate on these green waste bins so we can provide this service in our community Koki control neighborhoods. And then finally, I just wanted to mention an exciting new development for the Koki program at MISC. We've been deploying these song meter minis. We currently have 17 of these out on private properties around Haiku, and they're collecting Koki calls. So we're working with a company called Conservation Metrics, and they're going to be developing an algorithm that we'll use to further understand Koki frog populations in the future. So look for more information about that we'll be sharing as we learn more about how this works, and have, I'm sure, a lot of interesting audio of the Koki frogs to share. So I encourage everyone to get involved. And there's a link here that you can go to and fill out to sign up to participate. And we do this work to protect the forest from the Koki frogs. A lot of people are motivated to control Koki by their loud, annoying calls, but the Koki are a serious threat to Hawaii's native ecosystem. Since they don't have any natural predators here, the Koki frog populations can reach 2 to 4 times the levels they reach in their native Puerto Rico. And in Puerto Rico, they live with native predators that help keep them in check there. So being voracious insectivores, The Kokis consume thousands of insects per night, which can affect the food chain. And turning all those insects into fertilizer gives plants a boost. And the native plants that have evolved here are really used to a more like nutrient poor environment. So we're giving invasive plants a boost with that fertilizer. And then if the Coqui frogs are able to expand into upper elevations, they could compete with our native forest birds that are already threatened. So if you have Coquis on your property or near where you live, please get in touch and get involved in the program. And even if you don't have Coquis, it's important to understand why we take this action to control the species. Thanks.
Wow, thank you, Susan. That was very interesting. And I'd like to invite anybody participating today on the webinar or on Facebook Live. This is your opportunity to ask an expert about these community programs, about the Coqui control that's going on with these neighborhoods. So if anybody has any questions, here's your chance to put it in the Q&A or let's see, and I'm not seeing any yet. I know that there was some things I was curious about from your presentation. Okay. Are you offering this program in all of the areas that there are Coqui on Maui?
Well, anyone can sign up to participate. It just really depends on the amount of Coqui present on someone's property, what level they need. But definitely anybody on Maui can sign up. But I encourage anyone to give me a call. Anybody that fills out that form, I'll probably give them a call and we can talk story about what they're experiencing and find out, like I can match you up with other neighbors that might have already filled out the form or that I know are interested in working together with people. So really anybody can get involved and we just need more people to sign up. So there's all kinds of opportunity for people to get involved with this.
And here we just have a couple more minutes if anybody has comments or questions. And I'm sure they could follow up with Susan Frett via these means that she's given to communicate with her if something comes up later. So
also like to invite questions on Facebook Live. You can put it in the comment section. We have about 5 people right now on our Facebook Live. So if you have any questions, send them over now.
We have a question, Susan. So, here we go. This is from Skippy Howe from here on Maui. In upper elevation streams, we also have the wrinkled frog, Rana rugosa. Does the citric acid have any impact on them?
That's a good question. I don't have direct experience with these frogs as of yet. I would imagine they would probably have a similar effect on these amphibians. We do know like cane toads aren't really affected by the citric acid or aren't controlled by the citric acid, but a smaller frog probably could have the same effect as a Coqui frog, but we just have to find out. And a good point too is that there are no native amphibians or reptiles in all of Hawaii. So any amphibian or reptile that's on land here came here because of human activity too. So.
And if you'd like, Skippy Howe, we can also get back to you with the answer from that or to see if CTAR has done any research on that. And we also have a question from Chelsea Arnott. Do the Coqui on Maui call during the day like they do on Hawaii Island now?
I think that's pretty uncommon. It can happen, like I believe, like on like really overcast days, or maybe areas in the forest where it might be darker out. But I think that's not very common on Maui at all. I haven't heard them calling during the day myself. I don't know, Beth, if you have.
They do only in the super high density areas and during high moisture days.
Okay.
Like right around Maliko Gulch.
Sure.
Thank you from Chelsea, who is also a coworker of ours from Oahu. And does anybody else have any other questions or comments? Well, thank you all. We so appreciate you joining us. And I'm sure that as Susan has said, contact her if you have any other questions or would like to learn more about this community program.
So thanks for tuning in. Mahalo again, Susan, for your great work and your presentation. Stay tuned on our MISC Facebook and Instagram. We're going to have a lot of fun information coming out on the Community Coqui Control Program as well.